Alright, well, welcome back. So I've had my soldering iron out and I have wired up these 4 ESC telemetry leads to a single input. So the way D-Shot ESC telemetry works is an ESC will request telemetry in the D-Shot packet and then it gets sent out in the sort of reply cycle. So basically all of the ESCs can share a single telemetry line. This is how it works on 4-in-1 ESCs, and it works perfectly well on individual ESCs as well. So I've wired that up. I only need the RX pin because I already have a ground here that's going via the servo rail. And I've put it on one of these 4 pins, a bit like a CAN connector here, because this NORA Plus, nice little NORA Plus, has a UART3 with 4 pins in it. So I'm going to plug it into UART3 there, all the way up, and that should be good. So I will power up the ESCs, plug in a USB cable, and we'll just switch views and see what's going on there. Okay, so I'll connect to the flight controller. And you can see I'm getting battery information from the current and voltage sensor. But if I look in status at ESC data, I don't have any ESC data as expected. So what I'm going to do is go to the full parameter list and configure UART3, which confusingly is serial 7. I had to look in the HWDEF to find out which one it is. So serial 7 is UART3, and the regular NORA doesn't have this this telemetry port. So this would only work on the NORA Plus. Okay, so I'm going to set this to 16. Right parameters. I am going to reboot just to be sure. Reconnect, here we go, data. And as you can see, I've now got ESC voltage, and actually it looks like these ESCs have a current sensor on, which is nice. No RPM because the motors aren't moving, and interestingly no temperature either, and that's, I assume that's because the temperature sensor is broken on the F4s, and so there's no point in revealing this information, as we saw that on the BL Heli setup. So and this voltage matches the voltage I see over here just about, so that's nice. So I've got telemetry data coming out of the ESCs. So what I'm going to do is wire up a motor, and I think I can just do that live. This is hopefully. So I've got a motor here. I'll wire it up here. And I've no idea which ESC this is. This is motor 4, it looks like. So I'm going to go to motor test, which is in optional hardware, motor test, and motor 4 is, I can't remember this, the relationship between 1 to 4 and ABCD, I can never remember. So I'll just try testing all motors, see whether this works. And it does! Well, hey! So, motor is good, motor test works. I wonder whether we get any ESC telemetry out of that. We could have a look. Set it to go for 10 seconds this time. We'll have a look back at the ESC information, and we can see we've got RPM information in here as well. I think I've probably got the poles set incorrectly. I'm not sure how many poles this has. It's the same as this motor. Doesn't say. I'll have to have a look it up. But it's the default of 14. I think is 2. It's not enough. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's more like 20 or something like that. So I'll set the poles correctly so we get correct RPM information. But that looks like it's working, which is great. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is get the LEDs working. So I've got the motor working, I'm going to get the LEDs working. So let's just switch views again. Yeah, so see the LEDs on the arm here. So I'm going to power down. Power down the flight controller. So conveniently, Hexsoon provide an LED cable which provides two servo inputs, and the fact that there's 2 of them gives a little clue as to the kind of LEDs these are. So and also on the manual as well, it talks about data in and clock in, which makes me think that this is profile LEDs as opposed to NeoPixel. And so I'm going to plug this in, and confusingly, so they've labelled these, so you see there's a black and white and a white and brown. So confusingly, clock in is black and this white is not connected, I want to say. And then data in is brown, and then the other white is ground. So the whites are supposed to be connected to ground, not the blacks, and the clock is black and the data is brown. So I'm going to connect, so signal on the bottom, so I'm going to connect to motor 5. The clock, and then I'm going to connect to motor 6, the data, plug that into the LED like that. Now these have to be D-Shock capable to drive these LEDs, so I'm using 6 D-Shock capable outputs here, which I would struggle on many of the other high-end flight controllers because often they only provide 5 aux outputs. So this works on their Nora Plus, which all of these are D-Shock capable, but on other flight controllers the motor outputs might have to be PWM on the FMU in order to free up, or you just don't have LEDs. I suppose that's the other idea. That's the slightly annoying thing about profile LEDs, is you need 2 connections rather than 1, which is slightly frustrating. Whereas NeoPixel, you only need one connection. Okay, so I've plugged that in there. I've plugged it in here. I'll plug in the LED to port 1 here, so it's just like a pass through. Turn back on the flight controller, and then if we go to Mission Planner, let's connect up again. Okay, so setup I'm going to do is in servo, so mandatory hardware servo. I've got 4 motors configured. So if you remember, motor 5 was the clock, so I'm going to go for profile LED clock here. And then motor 6 was the output, the data, so I'm going to go for profile LED 1 here. Okay, so that's configuration, clock on motor 5, output on motor 6. And then I'm going to go to, the other thing you have to check is that these are not sharing a timer with anything else. And I made sure on the Nora Plus motors 1 to 4 are on timer 5, I think, and then motors 5 to 8 are on timer 1, I want to say. So they're on different timers, which is good. And then I'm going to set up the LED, notify LED. Whoops, if I spell it correctly, NTF LED. Oh, it's thinking about it. Here we go. NTF LED types. So I'm going to select profile LED. So this is the default, is 231. If I select profile LED, you can't see the window, but I selected profile LED. You can see that it changes to 743. So I've just added profile LED to the LED types. I'm going to write those parameters out. And what I will then do is disconnect and repower the flight controller from the battery. So we'll go back here, disconnect the flight controller. Oh, and we get a nice beep from the motor, which is nice, on power up. You see there's a white output on, there's a constant white output LED, I guess just to give some setting. And then you can see once it starts flashing, once it gets past the boot sequence, the LED starts flashing yellow. And hopefully, if we then do a motor test, typically with a motor test, it flashes red, green, blue, I think. So if I go back to Mission Planner, yeah, you can. It's a bit bright, the LED. You can't really see that it's yellow there, but I can assure you it is above the white one. Let's go to motor test, and with any luck, okay, test all motors, and that's flashing red, green, blue, which is great. You can't quite see it, but it did do it. Flashing red, green, blue there, which is very nice. Okay, so LEDs work, ESC telemetry works, that's all great. Another couple of things I'm going to plug in for a sort of, or when I mount it, is there's a nice, the Nora comes with a Wi-Fi remote telemetry module, so I'll plug that into one of the UARTs and I can use that on whatever flight controller, so that's pretty cool. And then there's a CAN breakout board, so I'm likely to use at least one CAN GPS, so I'll probably plug the current sensor into this and then maybe have another cable for a GPS. I think that would work quite well. But for now, I can put my soldering iron away, which is great. Everything seems to be working, everything seems to be up and running, and I can mount this now in the flight controller. Oh, the other thing I noticed was there is a Beck output here on the power distribution board. In the instructions, it says this is compatible with the cube output. So I'll probably, for when I try the cube, I'll probably put a cable on there and use that as the cube power supply. The other CUAV flight controller I got at the Pixel 6X uses the same power input, so I'll probably leave this one on for that. So then I've got both power inputs for both kinds of flight controller. But yeah, a lot of soldering later, it works, which is great news. All right, thank you.